Don't call the ambulance, Denise Hale snapped, stepping in front of the woman reaching for her phone. She's faking it again. I was on the dining room floor with a shattered plate beside my hand, trying to breathe through a chest that felt like it had been locked shut. Around me, 30 guests from my stepmother's charity dinner stood frozen in their suits and pearls. She's turning blue, someone whispered. Denise didn't even look down at me. She does this when she wants attention, she said loudly, as if I were a spoiled child and not a 19-year-old girl gasping against the hardwood. Her father isn't here to reward the performance tonight. I tried to say please, nothing came out. A family friend knelt beside me, but Denise pulled her back by the wrist. Leave her alone. The second everyone stops staring, she'll get up. The room tilted. My heartbeat slammed once, twice, then skipped. And in that moment, I realized she wasn't just refusing to help me. She was waiting to see how far it would go. The dinner had been Denise's favorite kind of stage. Crystal glasses, donation envelopes, women praising her taste, men thanking her for hosting while my father was away on business. I had been carrying plates from the kitchen because Denise said, "At least make yourself useful." For weeks I had begged to see a doctor. I got dizzy climbing stairs. My hands shook. Sometimes my heart raced so violently I had to sit on the bathroom floor until it passed. Denise always had the same answer. "You've been watching too many medical videos." Before we continue, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for updates. Earlier that evening, I had seen a stack of envelopes tucked inside her office drawer. One had my name on it, another had the hospital logo. When Denise caught me looking, she shut the drawer and smiled too fast. Now, lying under the chandelier, I heard someone say, "I'm calling anyway." Denise's voice sharpened. "Touch that phone and you'll regret embarrassing this family." Then everything went silent. No voices, no chandelier, no air. When the paramedics arrived, they had to force oxygen into my lungs on my own living room floor. As they lifted me onto the stretcher, my eyes cracked open just enough to see Denise leaning toward a guest. "If she talks about tonight," she whispered, "nobody will believe her." Years later, I walked into an operating room as Dr. Sharon Hale, cardiovascular surgeon. The chart in my hand listed the emergency patient's name. Denise Hale. And when she opened her eyes and saw me standing above her in surgical scrubs, she froze. I opened the archived file less than 20 minutes later, in an empty consultation room 2 floors above the operating wing. Inside was a cardiology referral dated 8 years earlier. Urgent follow-up required. My pulse slowed as I kept reading. The specialist had flagged signs of a dangerous hereditary condition after my school physical. Immediate testing was recommended. Multiple follow-ups had been attempted. At the bottom of the page was a signature confirming receipt of the notice. Denise Hale. 3 weeks before I collapsed at her charity dinner. I stared at the paper until the edges bent beneath my fingers. She knew. Not suspected, not guessed. Knew. I found my father in the surgical waiting area speaking with my Aunt Carol. The second he saw my face, he stood up. "What happened?" I handed him the referral. His eyes moved across the page slowly. "Where did you get this?" "Hospital archives." He frowned. Denise handled the insurance paperwork back then. There were probably scheduling issues. "She signed for it," I cut in, 3 weeks before I stopped breathing on her dining room floor. Nearby conversations faded. 2 nurses at the desk looked over. My father's expression hardened defensively. "Your stepmother took care of this family for years. And told everyone I was mentally unstable whenever I asked for help." Aunt Carol looked sharply at him. "She did say that," she admitted quietly. "Every holiday, every phone call." He turned toward her, stunned. I pulled another document from the file. Bank withdrawals. Trust distributions. My late mother's name appeared across the top, beside account numbers I had never seen before. "This was supposed to pay for my treatment and college," I said. The totals kept going. Private shopping accounts, resort payments, credit balances. The money was gone. My father grabbed the papers with shaking hands. This can't be right. Behind us, a harsh voice cut through the waiting room. Oh, this is perfect, Denise snapped from the wheelchair transport team, bringing her toward pre-op. Humiliating me publicly before surgery. Is that what this is, Sharon? People turned immediately. You hid my diagnosis, I said. Denise laughed bitterly. You always loved playing victim. A hospital administrator stepped beside the nurse's station, holding a tablet. Mrs. Hale, financial compliance needs to speak with you regarding forged signatures connected to the Hale Family Medical Trust. The waiting room went dead silent. My father looked at Denise like he was seeing her for the first time. Then Denise suddenly grabbed her chest. The monitor attached to her transport chair screamed. Her body jerked sideways as the orderly shouted, "She's crashing." Every emotion disappeared from my face instantly. I turned toward the surgical team. Move, I ordered, now. The operating room doors slammed shut behind us as nurses rushed into position. Pressure dropping. Prep for bypass. Bright surgical lights flooded Denise's face, while machines filled the room with sharp electronic rhythms. Beneath the oxygen mask, her skin had gone grey. I scrubbed in beside the table, while another surgeon, Dr. Patel, reviewed the scans. She ignored symptoms for years, he muttered quietly. The valve damage should have been treated long ago. The words hit harder than he realized. Ignored symptoms. Ignored warnings. Ignored me. Scalpel, I said. No one in the room mentioned our history directly, but I could feel it hanging over every movement. A circulating nurse avoided looking at me for too long. Another surgeon kept glancing between Denise and my face. They all knew by now. As the surgery began, pieces of the past started locking together with brutal clarity. Denise intercepting mail before I got home from school. Voicemails mysteriously deleted. Appointments cancelled without my knowledge. My father repeating Denise's words back to me. You're overreacting. She says the tests were normal. You need to stop obsessing over being sick. Every excuse had protected one thing: money. A formal diagnosis would have created medical records, insurance reviews, specialist billing trails. Questions about why trust funds meant for my treatment had vanished. Denise hadn't just ignored my condition. She buried it. Heart rhythms destabilizing, Dr. Patel warned suddenly. The monitor erupted into rapid alarms. Denise's blood pressure crashed. VFib. The room exploded into motion. Nurses reached for medication while the anesthesiologist adjusted lines. I stared down at the exposed damage inside her chest. There was one option left, a riskier reconstruction procedure that could save her, but it would add dangerous extra time to the surgery. Dr. Patel looked at me carefully. If we continue, complications go way up. Around the room, everyone waited. Not for the medical decision, for the personal one. Years ago, Denise stood over me while I stopped breathing and told people not to help. Now her life sat in my hands. I didn't hesitate. Continue bypass, I ordered. We're finishing this. The tension in the room shifted instantly. Staff moved faster. Focus returned. 2 more exhausting hours passed before the final monitor stabilized into a steady rhythm. She's holding, the anesthesiologist said in disbelief. I stepped back from the table, sweat damp beneath my surgical cap. Denise Hale was alive because I chose to save her. When I left the operating room, my father stood outside with red eyes and a stack of financial documents in his hands. She used the trust for gambling debt, he said hoarsely. Trips, credit cards, everything. He looked like a man realizing his entire life had been manipulated. Then down the hallway, elevator doors opened. 2 detectives stepped out beside a hospital investigator. At that exact moment inside recovery, Denise's eyes slowly opened. And the detectives walked into her room. The blinds to Denise's recovery room were half open. From the observation window outside, I watched detectives pull chairs beside her bed, while a hospital investigator spread documents across the tray table. Denise looked weak beneath the blankets, but her eyes moved quickly the second she saw the paperwork. One detective opened a folder. "Mrs. Hale, we need to ask about repeated withdrawals from the Hale Medical Trust." My father stood beside me in the hallway, silent and pale. Inside the room, Denise tried to sit up. "I just had surgery." "You're also connected to forged authorization signatures," the investigator replied, "including cancelled cardiology referrals tied to Sharon Hale." At the sound of my name, Denise looked toward the observation glass. For years, she had controlled every version of the story. Now she couldn't stop it. The truth unfolded piece by piece over the next hour. The trust left by my mother had been intended for two things only: my education and my medical care. Denise gained access to the account after marrying my father and slowly began draining it through forged approvals and falsified reimbursement forms. Then my school physical flagged signs of a dangerous hereditary heart condition. The referral to a cardiologist threatened everything. Testing would create insurance reviews, billing records, financial oversight, questions about why treatment funds were missing before treatment had even started. So Denise intercepted the referral, cancelled follow-ups, deleted calls from specialists. And when I collapsed during her charity dinner years later, she made the calculation that exposing me publicly as dramatic was safer than letting paramedics uncover how serious my condition really was. "She was supposed to recover," Denise said weakly from the hospital bed. "I didn't think she'd actually die." My father shut his eyes. I walked into the room slowly until I stood beside her bed. "But you were willing to risk it," I said. Denise couldn't answer. For the first time since I had known her, she had nothing left to control. The fallout came fast. Fraud investigators froze her accounts within days. Civil attorneys moved against the remaining assets tied to the trust. The charity boards she obsessed over quietly removed her name from every event and committee. Friends stopped visiting. Calls stopped coming. My father filed for divorce before Denise was discharged from the hospital's cardiac unit. He cooperated fully with investigators once he saw the financial records and the ignored medical warnings with Denise's signatures attached. One evening, he found me alone in the hospital cafeteria after my shift. "I failed you," he said quietly. I didn't answer immediately. Years earlier, I would have begged him to believe me. Now I simply looked at him across the table and let the silence sit between us. That silence broke him more than anger would have. Months later, recovered trust funds helped launch a cardiac screening foundation for teenagers whose symptoms were dismissed or ignored. We partnered with schools and free clinics, focusing on early detection before conditions became emergencies. During one of my hospital lectures, I noticed my father standing quietly in the back row after everyone else had taken seats. He didn't interrupt, didn't ask for forgiveness. He just listened. By then, Denise had recovered enough to be transferred to a correctional medical unit while awaiting trial. The last time I saw her, I was finishing rounds when an officer wheeled her through a secured hallway. She looked older than before, smaller. Our eyes met briefly. Then Denise looked away first. And I kept walking. The girl she once called an attention seeker became the last person standing between her and death.